New Tuesday means new development diary for EU4, and so you have the Norway mission tree that will let you go independent, colonize, and organize internal matters, new estate privileges, naval doctrines, and most importantly, plenty, and I mean plenty, new government reforms for monarchies. To stay up to date with the EU4 dev diaries as well as all the other content, remember to subscribe to the channel right now. So first of all, obviously Norwegian history for the timeline of EU4 is very linked to Denmark, and there's not much of conquest, domination. The Norwegian mission tree, because of that, will be very much a what-if mission tree, similar to Teutonic Order and Livonian Order, just not as crazy as in these cases. The whole mission tree of Norway will be split on 3 parts. First, focus on gaining independence from Denmark and doing Uno reverse on Denmark itself. Second part will be focused on colonization, so probably the coolest part of Norway in the past. And the third part, internal missions. Starting with fighting for independence, it's very similar for Sweden, so you can get help for each of the rivals of Denmark that is having good relations with you. In exchange, you'll be having an option to either get actual support independence from these nations, to get manpower for each of them, get money from each of them, or be a giga CHAD and do it by yourself in exchange for these bonuses for the time of the war. As told you, Uno reverse on Denmark, so once you get your independence, we can win our independence mission that is granting you restoration of your castle in Denmark, but with you being overlord over the Danish. You can also bypass the Tech 20 requirement for the Scandinavia formation. Unfortunately, there will be more information about Scandinavia next week, but I think this teased for the second time already. I believe it's gonna be far more useful than it is right now, which is not hard to achieve. When you get Denmark as your personal union, you're getting the Liberty Desire down to the ground, as well as some cool bonuses at the end of the game, especially the advisor cost, which is beautiful. I really love the way that the mission tree is constructed, because besides some consolidation of the region, so you have some more flavor missions, like for example conquering Scotland, which will allow you to make Geldom being your marsh in the terrains of Scotland. There are some also negative modifiers, and to be exact, 2 privileges for the nobility that you're starting with. They are giving you yearly corruption, yearly legitimacy in decrease, as well as the tax meta decrease depending on their ownership. It's not very hard to revoke them, but you have to play around a little bit to get rid of these privileges, and I think the biggest disadvantage of them is that they're taking spots. They're taking 2 spots for the other better privileges. This is the summary of the independence mission part. Now let's go to the colonization one. So in my opinion, the most interesting, because that's what Norway is about in EU4. Colonizing. A mission colonial ambitions to first of all give you any vision of what is Greenland, and once you send their 3,000 standing troops to one of the provinces, we'll be having the Lost Greenland Settlement event, which is pretty much about finding this old legendary settlement that was in Greenland done by the Vikings. And you have 2 options where first of all be looking for them for the next 20 days for some money, or you just place 400, 800 colonies on these provinces. If you choose the first option, there will be either this outcome, which I don't think it might make much sense, because why would anyone choose the second option if it's the minimum that you can get with this first option? And if you manage to be successful, you're getting far better things. So first of all, no colonies. The provinces are just ceded to Norway, and they're getting tons of modifiers, development, as well as the change culture and religion. Why would anyone go for something else? The rest of this part of the mission tree is about colonizing the North America as well as expanding into South America, so pretty much what you would expect. And if you circumnavigate the world, you can get some very cool permanent modifiers, except mana, which is yearly administration decay, not so useful, but colonial range and trade range are super useful. Finally, internal missions. Internal missions are about playing tall. For completing the burgers agendas and dominating North Sea and Zlewikk trade nodes, you can unlock this privilege, which is mountain expansion, and it's reducing the development cost penalty caused by terrain type of the owned mountains, highlands and hills province by 50%. So no, don't think that it's minus 50% dev cost, that would be crazy, that's not how it works. Because for example, if a mountain province is giving you plus 35% dev cost, it means that with this privilege it's gonna be plus 17.5% instead. So I think it's a very cool and very useful modifier, and some could even say it's broken, but it's definitely very good for the Scandinavia region, where you don't have that many plains and grasslands to develop. There are also religion missions which are working very similar to the ones for Denmark and Sweden, so you have branching missions depending on which path you choose, but they mentioned that here it's gonna be more focused on the Hedalstave Church in Bratsberg. And yeah, the final branch of this part is about developing Norway. And at the same time getting some military identity in Norway, because Denmark has the mercenaries, Sweden has Carolingians, so why don't we give something to Norway to make it more balanced? And I think it's a cool approach, because it's not like let's get some OP modifiers for the military for Norway. No, as Norway is more a naval nation and focus on the colonization, they are gonna receive a privilege that is focused on sailors, marines and burghers loyalty. It's a very cool modifier. In exchange you're getting a negative bonus to manpower recovery speed, so that's also cool. But I think going into sailors, it's something that I always laughed at, just this little bit different kind of the gameplay. There's also a unique naval doctrine for Norway, which is Norwegian sailors, which is far more sailors, recovery speed, Marines force limit and fleet movement speed. The fleet movement speed might be really interesting, and I think this is a very good naval doctrine, because I remember I told that in the previous dev diary, or two dev diaries ago, when discussing new doctrines, and these that were mentioned over there, they were not as OP as the vanilla ones. And this one will play very well with the privilege that I mentioned a second ago, so I would probably take it as Norway. There are also a bunch of missions about iron and copper and silver in Norway. They're also thinking if to add a silver mine, so the gold mine, in their terrains. And from history point of view, I have no idea, because I am not an expert of history of this area. But from the point of thinking about the gameplay in the Scandinavia, both single player and multiplayer, adding an actual gold mine over there on top of Delaskogen will actually give them some economy, because this region has big problems with economy in early games. So with the gold mine, it will be definitely better. You're also getting modifier Empire of the North, so almost North Sea Empire, which is tab cost modifier, and Nordic culture provinces will get -2 local unrest as long as the modifier is working. I think that's a cool modifier, nothing broken. I see that there's an update about the Carolingians, so apparently people were outraged that they're gonna be too overpowered, and they're being nerfed. Honestly, I don't understand that. And why I don't understand that? They mentioned that for each 20 development of your culture, you're getting 1 force limit of this, right? So you have 2000 development of your own culture, which is very hard to achieve. It's extremely hard to achieve. You won't achieve that on single player unless you're converting cultures, and on multiplayer you have developed a lot of your provinces. So for this 2000 of your own culture development, you get 100 force limit of the Carolingians. But if you have 2000 development and you develop your provinces slot and you're building up around the force limit, your general force limit should be around 800, 700, so there's 100 units of these special modifiers. They won't be as overpowered as it seems. That's just my thought of the people that were yelling that these Carolingians are a bit overpowered. No, they won't. There won't be enough amount of them to actually make a big difference. But okay, let's nerf them. So first of all, the allotment system is nerfed. So right now they are getting a negative modifier to land force limit modifier. But in exchange you're getting manpower modifier, possible Carolingian infantry and 5 army professionals, as well as the Carolingians in general. Honestly, this, together with Carolingians being nerfed to just shock damage, moral damage being this, and 5% discipline, in the cases when you know that you won't convert cultures and you won't develop your own lands, it will not be worth it to allow the allotment system. It's not worth it, because it's just not giving us as much as it should. Okay, I'm fine, people were yelling that it's too overpowered, let's nerf it. But if you want to keep this, I would say land force limit modifier -33% is a lot. Just this negative modifier, personally I would keep it a little bit lower. Now, final part of this dev diary are changes to government reforms which are part of the free update, so that's also important. And those are the reforms for the monarchy, I believe, and they listed a lot of them, starting with the tier 2 reforms. So before I jump into them, and I don't want to take too much time on talking about them, I think I mentioned that to the other reforms, I think for Republic or Theocracy already in the past. But we need to keep in mind that if you want the people not to stick to only one choice, we need to give a lot of diversification in this choice. So, for example, it doesn't matter if I have 6 reforms to choose from, but let's say only 1 or 2 of them are actually game-changing for them, and the rest are not useful. That's my first thought. Second thought, why we are taking absolutism, why taking guarantee reforms? This does not make any sense. I mean, big chunk of the reforms, not only in this year, are taking your maximum absolutism. I mean, you have to actually take the guarantee reforms, right, to keep completing them, and if you're being punished with the negative absolutism, you're gonna end up with super low absolutism by 1600. So what you have to do by then, just go and focus only these ones that are giving you absolutism. I would say that absolutism might not be the best approach as a negative modifiers to give over here, because we have both modifiers from guarantee forms, we are having modifiers from the privileges. Paradox mentioned that will be also more privileges slots, so not only 4 but I think 5 slots per estate. Then in this case, unexperienced players 100% are gonna end up with 0 absolutes by 1600 and 0 will to play this game after 1600 without absolutism. I would recommend thinking over the amount of the negative modifiers to absolutes that we are putting over here. The thing that I like the most about the new guarantee forms are not even the modifiers, the governed mechanics. So for example, recruiting generals increases loyalty of the nobility by 2. So it might be, for example, worth it to just go for this reform if you like lacking loyalty of the nobility, spam the generals and change back to something else, so be able to cancel all of the privileges that we're having for the estate. Or no stability loss on the monarch's death might be also very useful in the early game. I really like these changes, I would just really think about this absolutism. That's just my general thought on that. For tier 3, I think the choice over here is in general very good. You have a real differentiation depending on your strategy. Are you gonna need really this age unique estate edicts to, for example, stop the reformation? If you're gonna need to reform progress to get the higher tier bonus that you're looking for, or maybe you're doing advanced gameplay, then this is gonna be, for example, far better. And these two, meritocratic government and decentralized bureaucracy, those two do not make much sense. I don't think anybody would choose them. Tier 4 was shared for the republics, theocracies and monarchies, so here just some bonuses for the different religions. I'll just keep them for you to check out, I'm not gonna discuss them too much. And remaining tier 4 reforms, the only thing that I want to point out over here is the temples and cathedrals give the points plus 33% local tax modifier and minus 2 local unrest. Tax meta! Not too many changes tier 5 and 6, while for the tier 7, these are shared with the republics and theocracies, as it's all about the economical matters of your country. Lokian Proviso is giving you the death cost if you finish economic ideas. For single player, whole gameplay, amazing. For the multiplayer, where most of the mods are already nerfing the death cost modifiers, giving you another death cost modifier if you go for the same meta that everyone else is going, so going with echo and quantity, I don't think that's the best idea. Especially that's not a death cost, that's development efficiency, so it's decreasing the base cost of developing your provinces. I like and I don't like this idea. Finally, tier 8 and 9 are still work in progress, and next week we are gonna finally see something about the Scandinavia. Please say it's gonna be OP. Okay guys, I think this is gonna be all for today. So remember, if you do like the development diaries videos and you like to see more in the future, remember to leave a like on this video and tell me in comments what was the coolest change that you saw in this dev diary. And for today, thank you so much for watching. Remember to subscribe to the channel to get notified about the future videos, and I'm gonna see you very soon.